Hi, and welcome to Open, the show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. I'm Jonathan Calixto, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up, the director of Diagnostic Stewardship at the Children's Hospital at Montefiore speaks about the rise in measles cases. Then, Council member Althea Stevens talks about her first State of the District address at the New Settlement Community Center and this year's theme. After that, the Director of Policy and Advocacy at the Lenox Hill Neighborhood House talks about their overall mission. And finally, the Chief of Strategic Initiatives and Development for Astor Services shares details about the programs they offer to the people of the Bronx. So stay tuned, all this and much more is headed your way because we're now officially open. Hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan Calixto, and today is Tuesday, April 15th. You are now watching Open, a program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to you. Don't forget to stay connected with us via social media at BronxNet TV. Now, recently, the U.S. has seen a significant rise in measles cases, with numbers approaching 400 in some regions. This uptick has raised concerns among public health officials as measles is a highly contagious virus that can lead to serious health implications. That increase is largely attributed to declining vaccination rates and outbreaks in communities with lower immunity levels. Now, Dr. Brenda Anosike, the Director of Diagnostic Stewardship at the Children's Hospital at Montefiore, joins us now to share some advice on how you can protect yourself and your family. Hello, Doctor. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah,
Good
well,
morning.
good morning. I mean, it's an unfortunate, obviously, conversation that we have to have, but a very important one for our community. For people who may not be aware, can you give us a little bit of information about this viral disease?
Absolutely. Just as you said, measles is in fact a viral infection, and it can actually look like some of the more common cold symptoms. And it's a highly contagious virus that can often present initially with really high grade fevers as high as 103, 104 Fahrenheit or 40 degrees Celsius. And it can also present with coughing and headache, but very classic, we can have redness of the eyes, and certainly you will have a distinctive looking rash that can start on the face near the hairline or even behind the ears and progress throughout the rest of the body. And this virus, as you stated, is really quite contagious, so much so to the point where, in fact, if one individual is infected and is around other individuals who are um, unvaccinated or partially vaccinated, about 90% of them will actually get infected as well too. So this is a virus really that has far reach and really has been shown to have significant complications in children, including pneumonia and swelling of the brain and other complications as well.
Wow. Now, of course, when you talk about that far reach, we are now seeing those numbers increase here throughout the U.S. Can you explain why we are seeing this kind of make headlines and increasing in our own country?
Absolutely. So, the rise in measles is largely due to the declining vaccination coverage in certain communities. Measles is, as we said, quite contagious. So, even in small pockets where there are unvaccinated individuals who may have had traveled to a specific endemic area where there is more measles in that specific area, or if they've traveled across outside of the United States, and what happens is when they get infected, it can certainly lead to other individuals getting infected and causing these outbreaks. And so that's what we're seeing in Texas as well too.
Yeah, and we will definitely get into those numbers, even some of the numbers here in our very own state. With that, you talk about how it can affect children, adults, and some of the symptoms that we see rash, fever. Why is it so important to be informed and to talk about these risks, especially when it comes to our children?
Absolutely. So here's the thing. The thing with measles is that measles, unlike the common cold can have those complications that we talked about before. And unfortunately, those complications can lead to significant morbidity and potentially death, and particularly in children who are so much more susceptible because their immune system is a little bit different from adults, and particularly the most elderly individuals as well too, as well as the immunocompromised. So these are folks who can't get the vaccination for one reason or another, or they have high risk of having complications. And so this becomes a huge public health concern because one individual who's infected can really potentially put at risk other people as well.
Yeah, and you put that emphasis right there on the vaccine. In many communities, there is a vaccine hesitancy as well. What impact does that have when we are seeing these cases continue to rise?
Yeah, I think that vaccine hesitancy is a very real phenomenon. It's not new. This has been going on for many, many, many years. And where that really the issue lies with the vaccine hesitancy is there's concerns that parents legitimately have about vaccines. And many of those concerns are things that any healthcare provider is apt to answering the questions to allay some of those concerns. The unfortunate thing, the fallback with that is that with some of these vaccines that have been known to be quite safe and very effective, remember with measles, measles was eliminated in the United States in 2000. And so with vaccine hesitancy, we're seeing a drop in the vaccination rates. And what's happening now is we're seeing that resurgence of measles. So in 2019, we saw a ton of measles. And now we're seeing again measles at record breaking numbers that are even surpassing what we saw last year.
Yeah, when you mentioned these record breaking numbers, I mean, here in New York, there were 4 cases, 3 in New York City and 1 in Suffolk County. Are there any other regions that we are seeing also a very high number of cases?
As of right now, I will tell you that is actually what's been reported by the Department of Health in New York. And so it's entirely possible that there may be cases of measles that have not been reported. Obviously, we're doing our due diligence. Providers are doing their due diligence, and the Department of Health is doing their due diligence to make sure that we're keeping track of the cases that we see. The unfortunate thing about measles in a lot of ways is that it can look like a lot of other diseases. So sometimes folks may not be aware. So it requires a hyper level of vigilance. So it may be that what's reported, of those 4 cases that we have, are in fact what it has been actually documented. As far as whether other cases are out there, they're probably out there. We just haven't heard of them yet.
Now, of course, when you talk about even just those numbers obviously rising, some of us still identifying those numbers throughout the US. A big concern is obviously our children, as we mentioned earlier. Parents sometimes are concerned about vaccine safety. What would you tell them about why the MMR vaccine is safe and why they should look at that option?
I think that the first thing that is important is for us as providers, healthcare providers, to acknowledge those concerns. And not to be dismissive of parents who really want to do the best for their children. We all want the same thing. I think in terms of the vaccination safety, these are vaccinations. The measles vaccine actually came out in 1963, has been extremely well studied, and it's been deemed to be safe and in fact effective. So if you get 2 full doses, you have protection up to 97%. You're essentially protected. So we see that the concerns are there, but we really have to make sure as providers that we're having the conversation about what really is the truth about the vaccination.
Now, of course, in your line of work, doctor, for many years, when parents are looking to have these conversations with their doctors, with their children's doctors, can it be started at any point? Should they kind of look to just a primary doctor? Can they walk into a center? What is kind of that first line of how, them finding this help and resources?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing that is most important is really reaching out to a trusted healthcare provider. We as pediatricians or any other medical health provider can absolutely be a source of information that is true for you and trusted, hopefully, where you've developed that rapport with your healthcare provider. But certainly, you may find that there's information that is also on trusted websites. For example, the CDC, as well as the American Academy of Pediatrics, where there's a wealth of information about measles and how to go about preventing measles and the appropriate course of action if there's a concern. So these are really resources that can be used. There are a lot of resources on social media. The only problem with the social media is that it's unverifiable. So in which cases, if there is a question and you're seeing that source, you can certainly bring that to your healthcare provider and have a dialogue with your provider in terms of that information.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that information and just insight, of course, into how it affects and impacts our children and how we can look at protecting them. With that, there is this term that we are seeing around in the headlines in the news called herd immunity. What does that mean and why does that matter for our general population as well?
Oh, thank you. That's an important concept, the herd immunity. So, herd immunity basically means the type of the level of protection that the vaccine confers when a certain threshold is met, so that it actually protects folks from getting the infection. So, herd immunity is the community. And what we're really looking for is that if you are actually 95% or more, so that's that target that we're looking for. So, those who are vaccinated, 95% is where you will actually have protection from actually individuals from getting the infection. Once that number drops, because of how contagious and how effective this virus moves and transmits from person to person, just by airborne, this 95% is essential to maintain in terms of the level of protection in that community. Once it drops, then you'll see areas where you'll see outbreaks, as we're seeing in New York and other states alike, too.
Yeah, now for, of course, viewers watching, when they're looking at maybe their local resources, what can health departments, schools be doing to kind of continue raising more awareness about what is happening and provide actual solutions, resources at that?
Absolutely. I think it's most important that folks take the time to really read and read trusted resources that we talked about, but also really talking with your healthcare providers as well too. Everybody is a little bit nervous about this, and nobody wants poor outcomes for their child. And certainly, it's important to make sure that you have adequate resources at your disposal. So the first place I would often say is your healthcare provider, but certainly schools also may have some information as well. But importantly, the Department of Health also issues advisories as well too, where you can actually learn more about measles and how to protect yourself. But beyond things, the other measures, the number one thing is really the vaccination. The vaccination is preventative, 97% effective. I can't reemphasize that enough. But secondly, also making sure that you wash your hands and ensure that you're doing it often. And because this virus is extremely, extremely contagious, one coughing or sneezing, even on surfaces, the virus can last for 2 hours, even after the person has left the room. So washing your hand as you come into contact and ensuring that you're not really touching your eyes, your nose, your mouth, where the virus can gain entry is also another form of protection.
Now, I know, of course, personally myself, and I'm sure other people in general, like when we see these cases rise, we also wonder what other diseases can start to grow, what can be an outbreak eventually that we see on the news. What do you say is also a potential risk in cases rising if vaccination is not met?
Absolutely. So with that vaccine, the MMR vaccine, the MMR is actually measles, mumps, and rubella. And these are all viruses as well too. Mumps can cause an infection of the glands of the cheek as well as the testicles as well too, and really can be quite severe for some young children. And then rubella can cause congenital defects in the unborn child. So you can see numbers start to rise with that as well. We're also seeing rises in polio because it's also affecting other childhood vaccinations in terms of the vaccine hesitancy. So polio is also something that we saw that was a little bit of a concern here in New York in 2022, and we are concerned that that is going to continue to persist as well.
Yeah, with that, I mean, thank you so much, Dr. Anosike, for just enlightening us with what is happening here, obviously, but what we can also do to protect ourselves and for our community to protect themselves. So thank you so much.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
Yeah. Now, for our viewers, to keep up to keep up to date with the latest news from the Children's Hospital at Montefiore, please visit their website at cham.org. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Open after this.
We're gonna start the show right now. This is my favorite part. Ready in 5, 4, 3, 2. Hey, this is Angel, and I am one of the instructors for the in-studio production. Here at BronxNet, we offer classes that can help you elevate, expand, and start your television career. All you have to do is sign up at bronxnet.org/education. For the past 7 years, I have been in various productions, spanning from talk shows, independent films, news reports, art displays, teachings, musical performances, and many more. Ain't that right, Angel? Yeah, you're absolutely right, Angel. There are a lot of creative individuals that we're just waiting to sign up for the class. And if I may, can I also express thank you, Angel. That's all the time we have left. Visit bronxnet.org/education and become a producer by taking the course. The class I offer is also in English, en español y también bilingüe. Nos vemos en la próxima clase.
Welcome back. Recently, Councilmember Althea Stevens had her first State of the District address at the new Settlement Community Center. This year's theme, Public Safety is More Than Just Policing, will highlight the council members' continued advocacy for housing, education, and community investments that create a safer and more prosperous District 16. Councilmember Althea Stevens joins us now to further discuss this matter. Thank you so much for joining us, Councilmember.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for all the support that you guys always give me, and even being at the State of the District, it meant a lot.
Yeah, I talk about, obviously, as a reporter, I always see you out, in these streets, in the field, just doing the work. So it's beautiful to have you, obviously, in here. Now, talk to me. You had your first State of the District address. Why was it important to have this address and its importance for the community as well?
It's interesting because I said this at the end of my address that for 3 years, I just had my head down doing the work. And I think it's also important for us to take a step back to reflect on how much we've accomplished in these last 3 years, and also thinking about what's next for the borough, what's next for the district. And so for me, it was eye-opening around some of the things that I've done, and to be able to kind of lay it out. And so as we were putting it together, to see how much investment we were bringing back into the district, how much legislation we're passing, and all of this is to support what we're doing in the district. And so I thought that it was important that we share our accomplishments and talk about it, and also have people understand that this work isn't done just by me. It's done with so many different people who are supporting me, and so many things that's going on, and also trying to get more people involved in the work that we're doing.
Yeah. Now, of course, as you reflect and even chose the theme, which is public safety is more than just policing, talk to me about what made you decide on that theme and what it means for District 16.
Well, honestly, I say it in my address that we have a lot of issues around public safety, right? We have high numbers of gun violence and theft and all these things. And for me, it's thinking about how do we make sure that we as a community are coming up with the solutions. Also often people are saying like, oh, we just need more cops, but that's not the answer. I really want people to understand that we have to keep each other safe, and the cops are part of the solution, but they are not the solution. We are the solution. And so thinking about if we are fighting to get investments in things like education, workforce development, and housing, and people feel stable in the community, that will help alleviate some of the public safety issues that we see. And so how do we collectively fight for these things so we can transform our community?
Yeah, now, of course, when you talk about even that funding, that investment in the community, I mean, something that you mentioned at the State of the District address was $61.4 million funded throughout your 3 years so far, right?
Yeah, I was blown away by that number myself. And I remember when I first read it, I was just like, wait, what? One, I think that it is a huge accomplishment, but two, the Bronx and District 16 has not been invested in like this before. And we're just trying to play catch up at this point to get what we deserve anyway. This is things that we should have been getting, investments in schools. I've been having, for the last 3 years, I've been pushing my principals to dream big and think about how do we transform our schools to be beautiful, so when young people walk in, they can feel proud and excited about being in those buildings, working with, housing developments to do preservation. I funded preservation to upgrade some of the apartment buildings that's been in the district, because we're always talking about new housing, but we're never talking about the preservation of what we also have, which is just as important. One of my biggest accomplishments is being able to work with the borough president and the speaker to get $10 million to upgrade the Taft Campus Center that hadn't been done. And I remember it was such a big accomplishment because I remember when I first did my tour at Taft campus, they were having a barbecue, and I was like, the field looks crazy. And I was like, yeah, it's one of the things that we've been trying to get fixed. And I was like, well, you didn't request money for this. And they was like, because it's so much. And I was like, it doesn't matter. Let's figure this out. And we were able to get that funded. And it's supposed to be finished this year. So hopefully by the end of this school year, we'll have a fully redone field for this half campus, which houses over 8 schools. And so it's going to not only be transformative for those students, but for the community.
Yeah, you talk obviously about that impact on students. You know, something else is also a focus on youth services and different initiatives around that. Talk to me about why that is also important in the work that you're doing to focus on that.
Well, you know, long before I was in council, I was a youth developer and an advocate for a number of years. And, you know, thank God I was able to get the Youth Services Committee. And under Speaker Adrienne Adams, she actually expanded my committee to include not just DYCD, but to add ACS, which is huge. And so I like to say I am the co-parent of all the babies of New York City, and all of them are under my portfolio at some place. But, you know, just looking at how are we making sure the programs that we have are actually what the kids want. And one of the things of having ACS now under my committee, I was able to kind of see that young people are having an increased number of juvenile detention, going into secure juvenile detention centers. And so for me, it's like, well, then what are we doing on this side to prevent that? And are those things connected? And when I'm going across the city and talking to young people, they're telling me they want jobs. And so for me, my push for the city is we have to reimagine what the workforce looks like for young people. We have some of the highest numbers for unemployment for young people that we've ever seen since COVID. When we're talking about recovering from COVID, that did not recover for young people. So for me, it's thinking about what are programs that we can do to secure jobs for young people because they want to make money? How are we giving them the skills that they need to go into the workforce when they're finishing school? And what does that look like? So I'm saying moving forward, how do we reimagine a workforce? SYP is good, but that's only for 2 months. We need to think about what does it looks like to have young people employed all year long, whether that's through programs at schools like LTW, Learn to Work, or Ready to Work, which is another program that the chancellor has been doing, or looking at expanding Work, Learn, Grow, which is the year-long program that they have for SYEP students, but it's a smaller program. So how do we look at those things and expanding it so young people have those options?
Yeah, now, of course, when you talk about this long-term opportunity for them to expand, work on their skills, employment even at that, something else that I thought was a big focus on your State of the District address, and you announced and had cheers, was this focus on Public Safety Advisory Board.
Yeah.
What was the decision to create something like this and to put it in the community?
So I have had advisory board since I've taken over. This has been a legacy of the office of District 16. And public safety, like I said, is a huge issue in our community. This summer we had an increase in number of shootings in the district. We had a number of town halls throughout the districts talking about it. And I felt like people kept saying like, oh, what are you going to do about it? What are the cops going to do? And I kept being like, no. What are we going to do about it? How are we sitting down at the table to look at not only legislation, but budget items, and also each other and holding each other accountable to keep each other safe? And so it was just really important. And then even when we brought in the Cure Violence and CMS groups into the conversation, a lot of folks didn't even know what that they were there to kind of support. They didn't know that they patrol the streets. They didn't know that they're there to give like support and to mediate violence and things like that. So for me, it was like, well, then this needs to be a conversation in my office, and this needs to be led by the community to ensure that they are part of these conversations, bringing in NYPD when it's necessary, and also making sure that community members have a stake in this fight.
Yeah, now, of course, when we focus and talk about some of the wins, even the funding throughout your 3 years, some of the things that you are even planning for the community, what were some of the challenges that you did have to overcome to get these fundings, to get these initiatives underway? What was that like for you?
I think obviously a lot of the challenges that we continue to have is that the Bronx often is overlooked, right? And so a lot of times I have to fight tooth and nail to show that this is a need and this is necessary for our district. And so when I'm at City Hall, I'm a fierce fighter. Nobody's gonna fight as hard as me. But also too, the other challenges is also getting people involved. I don't think people understand the power that they have and how when they're showing up at community meetings or when they are showing up and voting, and those things matter. One of my colleagues always says in the assembly, he always says like, you don't understand that you're vote is connected to money, because when they see that there's high voter turnouts, people will move in that community. And so that's why even part of my state of the district was saying, I need you in this fight. I am one person, and that is it. But my power comes from the people. People showing up and saying that we deserve more, that we're not going to sit down and be complacent is what we need. And understanding that that is a hard ask for people who often are working multiple jobs and have children and families and all these things. But we also need to get people excited about, like, this is what has to be done. We're in a political climate where you can't sit on the sidelines anymore. And so for me, I want people to get engaged and get engaged at the local level. Like that, all change starts there. And that's one of the reasons why I ran for city council, was because at the local level is where the work is. I get to be in the community. I get to stand side by side, see my constituents at the grocery store, see them at the parks, because I'm here. I don't, we just go down to City Hall. We're not in Albany. We're not in DC. We are here in the community. And so I want my community to fight with me and stand side by side with me.
Yeah, when you talk about that community involvement, how they can inspire change, I mean, we just wrapped up the participatory budget, especially in Council District 16. Talk to me about what impact does that make to participate in these votes, and what they were even hoping to create some change in.
Listen, I love participatory budgeting. I think that it's a small step in people getting civically engaged that they didn't even know, right? Like, because so often people are coming to me with ideas and projects, and so participatory budgeting allows the community to come up what they think is necessary and want to see in the district, and then vote on getting it funded, right? And so, we've done projects from upgrading schools, we've done projects to fixing up libraries and things that really are essential in the district. And even this year, we were able to get some public safety items on there. We had parks on there, we had schools. And so it was a variety of things. And you only have to be 11 years old to vote. And so that's the other piece where it's like, young people are always saying, how can I get involved? Participatory budgeting is a way that they can get involved. They can be delegates. They can go out and help, and they can vote. And so I think that's a really important way to also get young people in the habit of voting and speaking out and being civically engaged.
Yeah, now a big point was the reflection part. And you said, if I have done this in 3 years, look what I can continue to do. And so briefly, council member, looking ahead, what is it that you do want to accomplish, or projects that are underway that the community can look forward to?
Yeah, I mean, I got some commitments from the administration around the city of Yes, which was getting a ferry study, a STEM lab, getting some home ownership in the district. And that's going to be my fight to get that done in the next 3 years, or get them started before I leave, and make sure that that commitment is held up to. Also looking at, like I said, the numbers for secure detention for juvenile justice, making sure we have a secure plan to get those numbers down and prevent young people from getting caught up into the system. That's going to be a big thing for me. And also just continue to fight for things in the community, like more services, more mental health services, making sure that we are getting more healthy food options in the district. One of my advisory boards is the Health and Wellness Committee, and that's something we don't talk about a lot in our district. But how do we have healthy food options? What are some entertainment things that we can do together? Which is why we're always hosting like family events. We have some skate nights coming up. We're going to be having a Juneteenth line dance party at Joyce Kilmore Park, and a family day. And so there's all these things that we're trying to do to get people engaged, because that's also a part of being healthy and having activities for the community.
Definitely, and I know we will definitely stay tuned to that. Thank you again, council member, for being here with us.
Absolutely, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Definitely. Now, to learn more about the efforts being made by council member Althea Stephen, please visit her website, which is on the screen below. Stay tuned, we have much more open for you right after this.
What's up, creative family? Discover your voice with BronxNet Community Media classes. Are you ready to bring your ideas to life? At BronxNet, we offer television production classes for community members ages 18 and over, empowering you to share your vision with the world. Get certified in field production, in-studio production, and our new exciting addition, podcast production. Once certified, you can create your own show to air on one of our 6 TV channels. It all starts with our free Unleash Your Ideas Masterclass, designed to help you plan your show idea and set you up for success on your production journey. This class is offered at the beginning of each month for your convenience. Our dedicated BronxNet team is here to support, encourage, and uplift you every step of the way. Join us and become a part of the creative force that engages and inspires the Bronx community and beyond. Sign up today and start your media journey with BronxNet. Visit bronxnet.org/education to learn more and register. Let's create something amazing together.
Welcome back. The Lenox Hill Neighborhood House is a nonprofit organization based here in the Upper East Side of New York City. It has been serving the community for over 130 years, committed to providing a wide range of services to individuals and families, particularly those who are economically disadvantaged or vulnerable. We are now joined by the Director of Policy and Advocacy for the Lenox Hill Neighborhood House, Justine Tetteh. Welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here with you today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to have you here. Obviously, give us a brief overview about the work that the Lenox Hill Neighborhood House does.
Yeah. So we've been a organization that's been open since 1894. We follow a settlement house model. So we strive, and our mission is to provide multi-generational care through social services, education, and overall wellness. And so we've really invested a lot of time into building and uplifting our community in the Upper East Side. And so since we've been able to do that, we've been able to expand our reach outside of the Upper East Side and really integrate our services into the 5 boroughs in New York State.
Yeah, and I was reading on the website, policy and advocacy are some of the things that are at the heart of this organization's mission. Talk to me about how that is being obviously applied through its mission, its program, its efforts.
Yeah, so policy and advocacy as a role is an inaugural role that was introduced very recently. However, the organization has always been involved in advocacy within the community. And so since, the role has come to life, I would say we've been working really hard on, meeting with elected officials at a local, state, and federal level, and really opening the lines of communication and building rapport. So when we have the difficult conversations about, increasing services for older adults, or, increasing funding for education, affordable housing, social services, we really are at the front lines, and we really are representing the communities that we serve.
Yeah, now obviously you do put an emphasis there on even our older communities, our citizens right here. Talk to me about some of the ways and some of those programs of how you work with them.
Yeah, so we have an extensive amount of programs, I would say. We have older adult centers, we have an early childhood center, we have supportive housing residence, a women's mental health shelter, and then various other programs that are really packed into the foundation of our organization. So it's really amazing to see how the organization has grown from the origins in 1894 as a free education center for young children, and how we've been able to expand education for the entire age range and really grow with social services in general.
Yeah, I was reading a little bit about the work, and I mean, it says it supports 10,000 older New Yorkers.
Yes.
Obviously, to have that big, wide range of New Yorkers, what are some of the efforts maybe that you are doing with them, or how do people even find out and join an initiative if they want support?
Yeah, so I would say that the work that we do with the older adults in New York City is really comprehensive. So we have 2 older adult centers. We do serve 3 nutritious and healthy meals every day, 7 days a week. And apart from serving the meals, we also have a wide range of activities that we do offer to all of our older adult members, which I'm a little bit jealous of because they really do have a great time. Some of these activities are like, dance, tap dance. We have swimming classes. We have swimming meditation. Some of our members are also volunteers, so they also lead courses and activities, so they're able to share their wealth of knowledge with other members. And aside from the meals and the activities, we also have additional educational opportunities for older adults. So this could be ESOL or language courses. We have adult education courses. We have tech education courses.
Wow.
We also have mental health and social service benefits assistance integrated into our older adult services. So it's really a general wealth of knowledge of care and commitment to helping our older adults in New York City age gracefully.
Yeah. Now, of course, some of the programs that you also have kind of expand far beyond the Upper East Side. Talk to me about the Teaching Kitchen and its impact on Bronx residents specifically.
Yeah, I love the Teaching Kitchen. So the Teaching Kitchen is a program that was introduced by the Neighborhood House in 2016. And our executive chef, Evelyn Garcia, she goes to different programs across the state, organizations that are serving government-funded meals. So this could be schools, older adult centers, early childhood centers, homeless shelters, etc. And essentially, she goes in and she meets with the kitchen staff or the chefs and helps the staff create a menu of healthy, nutritious, farm-to-table meals with the tools that they do have. So every site is different. Every site has different needs. And so each program experience is really tailored to that program. So across the entire organization, we do serve approximately 480 clients in the Bronx, but we have made our biggest impact in the Bronx with the Teaching Kitchen. So as of today, we've trained about 43 sites in the Bronx, mostly early childhood centers and older adult centers. And this has had a direct impact of over 4 million meals. So we are always looking to expand our reach in the Bronx and continue to have other programs who are interested in working with us.
Yeah, when you mentioned even the work of your resident chef, of how she meets with other, obviously shelters, even at that, or to provide these services, you also do have a focus on homelessness, working with either people who were formerly homeless individuals. Talk to me about the work of the Women's Mental Health Shelter and Casa Mutua.
Yeah, I could talk about Casa Mutua all day because I actually started at the organization at Casa Mutua. I spent 2.5 years there, and of the 2.5 years, I was the director of the residents. What I can say is that both of these programs really do offer, the women and the tenants an opportunity to kind of regain their independence. I would say that the organization really prides themselves on acknowledging the perils of mental health and mental illness in New York City. And so we have a lot of mental health services built into all of our programs. So I would say that with Casa Mutua and Women's Mental Health Shelter, we, have extensive social services opportunities and like essential care, whether it be healthcare or mental health care, that we offer them. And it really allows us to help them regain their faith in social services, but also regain the faith that they have in themselves to really reintegrate into society and be stable.
Yeah, now, of course, when you list all these different programs that we've been talking about and elaborating more on, you do serve a diverse group of individuals, from our children, our seniors, even people dealing with economic hardships. How does the organization make sure that they are able to kind of encompass everyone's needs?
Yeah, I would say it's really important for the neighborhood house to be in tune with the needs of each group, right? Every group that we do serve has different needs and they're always changing. But apart from knowing the needs of each group, it's also educating ourselves with what is happening at a local, state, and federal level, right? And how, certain policies that are presented within our government can really impact the services that we offer or funding, or can really impact the wellness of the community that we do serve. So as a team, we really do work very closely with one another to kind of bounce ideas off on how, we can serve this community and be creative, maybe work with one another to really address the needs of everyone, but also educating ourselves and being aware of what's going on outside of the neighborhood house.
Yeah, now, of course, with continuing that mission, I know May 1st is a very important date.
It is.
Talk to me a little bit about that date and what we can expect.
Yes. So every year we do have a gala, spring gala. So this year it is May 1st. And so the gala has been going on for several decades. And so Albert Hadley, who was a former board member, he is also a legendary interior designer. He created this idea of inviting interior designers to participate in the gala. And so all these interior designers come every year. We have several who are coming this year, and they really transform Cipriani 42nd Street into like this breathtaking experience with the most beautiful tablescapes I've ever seen in my life. So this year we will be having about 500 guests who are all supporters and partners of Lenox Hill Neighborhood House to really celebrate the work that we do in our community in ways that we can expand and continue the work.
Yeah, now I know with bringing so many people into the room who believe in the mission, there's also some honorees. Talk to me a little bit about what you decided on how these people, why they should be honored and how they support the mission.
So this year we are honoring Dusty Phillip, who is a dedicated board member, and he is also a member of the Upper East Side community. He lives there with his family. He is also the co-chair of Global Mergers and Acquisitions at Goldman Sachs, and he serves on the boards of various other local and global nonprofits. So he's a real pivotal member, not only for our organization, but for other organizations. And then we are also honoring Warren Scharf, who is the executive director of 22 years, which is 1/6 of our organization's history. So he is actually stepping down and retiring in June. But we essentially just want to celebrate his remarkable leadership. And he is someone that has always encourage all staff, current and prior, to really excel in the way that we provide services to the community. And the foundation of his entire career has been advocacy for underserved people and communities. So we're really lucky to have had him for the time that we had. And we're really lucky and excited to really toast to his remarkable leadership at the organization.
Yeah, now I know we will definitely stay tuned to that upcoming date. I mean, with that as well, Justine, when, we were talking a little bit before and you mentioned you've been 4 years now with the organization and you are a Bronxite yourself.
Yes,
so,
I am.
Yeah, and now being in this role of director as well, talk to me about, how has that been, being a part of this organization, how has it impacted the way you see community service, philanthropy, and its mission that it's doing?
Yes. So I am a Bronx resident. I was born and raised in Marble Hill, which is not too far from here. And my aunt went to undergrad at Lehman, and I've been in this building many times, so it's actually really nostalgic to be back. And I can say that as someone who was born and raised in the Bronx, I have seen the ebbs and the flows of our borough, right? But I can also acknowledge that while we do have roots of greatness here, we also have an issue where the borough itself is very overlooked and underserved. And so with that, I've been taught from my experiences growing up in the Bronx about the power of empathy and about the power of community and coming together and being collective. And it kind of inspired me to pursue a career in mental health counseling, because I'm a licensed mental health counselor in New York State. And so when I joined the neighborhood house in 2021 as a clinical coordinator for Casa Mutua, I was able to provide social services and mental treatment in that manner. And it really inspired me to not only want to do more in the community, but to inspire me on how doing more in the mental health and supportive housing and social services realm can be expanded into policy and advocacy and really being a voice for the community. So we're always looking as an organization to expand what we do into the Bronx, and I'm hoping that some people watch this and they learn more about the organization and want to join our community.
Definitely, and I mean, it's great to have obviously a Bronxite, someone from our community, join us here today. Even though Lehman College, you are familiar with it, welcome back as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Justine, for being with us, okay?
Thank you.
With that, to our viewers, to learn more about their efforts and programs they offer, please visit their website at lenoxhill.org. We have to take a quick break, but we'll be back with more Open after this.
19.7% of Bronxites currently experience food insecurity. Meanwhile, instead of these nice, colorful foods, this is the best food that they have access to. If this sounds like you, there are a bunch of resources to get healthy food for free or cheap. If you want to help, you might consider donating or volunteering in one of these places. Community fridges like this one are all over the city and allow New Yorkers to conveniently donate extra food to people who might need it. Go to this link and find your nearest one. Food banks and pop-up events like these provide millions of healthy meals to families in need. These organizations are distributing meals to Bronxites as we speak and are always accepting donations and volunteers.
Welcome back. Astor Services is a community-based nonprofit organization that provides children's mental health services, child welfare services, and early childhood development services. They are committed to supporting families to ensure each child has a healthy and happy childhood. Here with us today is their Chief of Strategic Initiatives and Development. She is also their Bronx Administrator, Sarai Manuel. Hi, Sarai, welcome.
Thank you, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so I mentioned obviously some of the services that you do provide, but give us a little context into Astor Services.
Well, Astor has been around in the Hudson Valley for a little over 70 years, and then in the Bronx for a little over 57 years, so close to 60 years out in the Bronx. We have a variety of different programs. Some of them are kind of copied in both Hudson Valley and the Bronx, but there's also variety in what we provide to the specific communities that we serve. So here in the Bronx specifically, we have the New Trauma Recovery Center, and we have day treatment programs that service children who have emotional behavioral challenges in your mainstream classroom or daycare setting. And we provide services for them from 2.5 all the way up into the 8th grade. The TRC is available to clients, adults, and children free of charge. And talk a little bit more about each of the programs. I'm really kind of proud of these specific programs because of the type of services that they provide. They both provide evidence-based practices to the families and the children that they serve. So it's very detailed and specific to the client and what their particular needs are. But we also have case management services. We have, you had mentioned prevention services, where we work with ACS and families who have met with the child welfare system. And we have other community-based services throughout the Bronx. We serve the whole entire Bronx.
I know, and we will definitely get into them. I want to make sure we obviously have time, like you mentioned. There's such a range of services right there, but I want to be able to start off with our Trauma Recovery Center. If you can just expand a little bit about their work and how they're obviously helping and working with Bronxites.
Absolutely. I'm so proud of this program. It's a little less than 2 years old. We're the only one in the Bronx right now. There are some new TRCs that have also sprouted out in Brooklyn, but we are currently the only one in the Bronx right now. And like I said, it's absolutely free of charge to anyone who has experienced some type of traumatic event in the last 3 years or so. We know that the majority of the people that we see oftentimes experience anxiety and depression, but what they don't know sometimes is whether or not that is something that's coming from their environment, things that they're dealing with, or maybe a traumatic event that they're not even particularly able to identify themselves. So at the Trauma Recovery Center, we do a variety of assessments for children and adults to help really kind of hone in on what it is that they're experiencing and where it potentially may be coming from. And if they're eligible because of a traumatic event to participate in the TRC itself provides case management services, it provides the evidence-based practice services, and then it helps to kind of tie them back into the community through connections and networking. But it's very, very particular because through the Trauma Recovery Center, we can also go in with the client if they have a court case and they need kind of advocacy or assistance, we provide that for them as well. Wow. Sometimes we can meet a victim right at the hospital where they're the most vulnerable. and start talking to them a little bit about what's available to them. And not all clients are ready to deal with the mental health piece right away. So that's why we introduce the case management portion. Because if you're dealing with maybe homelessness while you're also dealing with a traumatic event, you're not going to be necessarily ready to talk about that trauma. You want to feel safe and secure with housing, maybe with some food insecurity that you might be dealing with. And so we'll work with you on that basic level first. And then when you're ready to really deal with the traumatic event, we'll be available to you with those services as well. And we can come into your home, in the office, or through telehealth.
Definitely, and you actually talk about there like curating kind of this approach to each person's needs. With that, we also have the day treatment program. You know, how are you making sure that type of program meets the needs of the Bronx community members and everyone's needs specifically?
Well, the day treatment program is very unique in what they provide. Again, this is for children, even daycare age children who, again, are challenged emotionally and behaviorally through mainstream education, right? And it's very kind of similar to a District 75 school. But what makes it very special is the fact that you can come into the classroom, it's one teacher per 8 children with 2 teachers' aides at each classroom, so it's very, very specialized, very kind of particular to the child's needs. And then on top of that, they're not just getting the education or the academic piece, they're also getting the therapeutic piece. So we provide crisis intervention services right on site. Everything is evidence-based with the therapeutics that are provided to the children, and that's in your whole entire day. The children get bussed in, and then they get bussed home.
Wow. Now, of course, thank you so much for even just giving us a overview. I mean, it's even important to hear that it's the only one in our borough as well. So it's important focus at that. Something else that obviously the organization is also doing is a Mother's Day community event. So you are tapping it into our community in partnership with Catholic Charities. Talk to me about what attendees can expect to see at this event.
So we like to do a variety of different kind of programs and activities for the community throughout the year. But just around this time of year, we have so many things happening. We have Easter, we have Mother's Day, we have Father's Day. So we try, and we also have Mental Health Month in May. So we try to do a little bit of everything to kind of provide activities for the community. And oftentimes they're supported by a variety of council members like Riley, Farias, Marmorato. But for the Mother's Day event, this one's really supported by Council member Althea Stevens. So we're really proud about this partnership. And we do a lot of work with Catholic Charities organizations because we're under the umbrella of Catholic Charities. For Astor Services, for this particular event, we're looking to be able to provide food, some takeaways, workshops and activities for the mothers or any caregiver. So sometimes you don't have children of your own, but you are caregiving for somebody else in your family. We'd like to be able to celebrate you too. So that's happening right in the High Bridge area. If you'd like to learn more, information will be up on our website for that. And we're even going to have a workshop on financial literacy for our community, which I think is going to be super helpful in this day and time.
Yeah, of course. Now, with those efforts, the work that you're doing, Sarai, you are also a licensed marriage and family therapist. You know, mental health issues are very close to your heart in the sense of like the work that you do. Talk to me about, you know, with families when they're kind of going through these challenges, what is something they can look to do and a resource they can look to kind of continue to have these conversations and make some change?
So dealing with, especially in our culture, in Cuban so, but I know in our Hispanic culture, talking about mental health can feel scary and sometimes it can feel very, very taboo. So there is a lot of stigma, not just in our Hispanic culture, but in many other cultures as well, for a variety of different reasons, right? But now we're in a new day and age, and the COVID experience has really opened up everyone's eyes, even the older generation, to being more open to talking about some of the experiences they've had with their mental health over these last few years. So for us, it's been very fortunate because now we have a wider audience to really be available to talk about your mental health issues. So I spoke a little bit about anxiety and depression kind of being number one or the most common diagnosis that we see, but oftentimes, those are diagnoses that have underlying diagnosis. So why is it important for us to be able to take opportunities like this to really talk about what services are out there? It's because oftentimes you're struggling and you feel like you're struggling by yourself and you feel like you don't even recognize what it is that you're struggling with, or you're afraid to talk about it with your family members. And sometimes you talk about it with your friends. But the most important thing is for you to realize that when you're going through some difficulties, feeling what you're feeling, and sometimes it could be felt in your body or it could be felt in your head with various thoughts, is that you are not alone in these experiences. There are 1 out of 5 people who suffer from some type of mental health challenge. And it can't just be anxiety or, difficulty being in social settings. It could be depression because you've gone through some challenges in your life, but it could be something else that's those are just maybe the superficial symptoms. So it's important to be able to talk to somebody about what you're going through. And right now at Astor Services, we provide such an array of services that there is bound to be one service out there that's going to fit the need that you have at the moment and what you're feeling right now. So again, we don't have to talk about your mental health issues right now. We have case management services and other services that might fit your needs. And when you're ready, we can walk you right into those mental health services.
Yeah, now, of course, with that, obviously, you shared some of the resources, even some of the signs that we can even look to. Obviously, as our viewers are watching, if they start to have some questions or maybe even looking at some of the signs that they're seeing in their own lives, what advice would you give them? Something that they can start doing now, maybe? I know you mentioned, obviously, having the conversations, but something else that they can probably look to, you would say?
Absolutely. So I think if you are really struggling with your day, if you're feeling like you're struggling making it out of bed, if you feel like you're struggling going to work or going through your classes and you're not really sure exactly what's happening, reach out to someone, because we can do a screening for you, and that's absolutely for free or through your insurance, and it can help kind of honing in on what it is that you're experiencing. The worst thing is for you to sit in on this unknown of what you're living through and not knowing exactly what tools you might need in order to be able to get you into the next step of feeling better and feeling okay. So don't sit on it. Talk to someone, reach out. We're available to you. You can sit down and talk to someone that can say, hey, maybe this program might be a really good fit for you. But these screenings and these assessments will really help you to figure out what's going on with you, with your body, and with your mind.
Amazing. Well, I mean, thank you so much again, Sarai. You talk about Astor Services' legacy of over 70 years, but then also 60 years in the Bronx. So thank you so much for breaking that down for us.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Now, of course, to our viewers, if you would like to learn more about this organization, please visit their website at astorservices.org. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us, and of course you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you've missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recablecast at 5 and 8 p.m. tonight on Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon Fios 33, or watch anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. You can catch a brand new episode of Open with Darren Jaime on Wednesday and with Rina Valentin on Friday. I'm Jonathan Calixto. Stay informed, stay inspired, and stay safe. Until next time.